Now, in moderate cases, cortisol is really good. But what we're considering here is when we're in chronic stress, when we're constantly producing cortisol, because this is when issues arise, and this is where we can develop things like weight gain. We can have a lot of issues with weakened immunity. And so that's why we want to look at what can we do to manage our cortisol. Hello and welcome back. Now, just before we get started with this episode, I've got lots of really cool announcements to share with you. But just first and foremost, as I always encourage you to do, if you are watching this on the Total Somatics YouTube channel, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and press the notification bell. So whenever you get any of my latest episodes, you are notified very quickly. And also, I just want to share with you, I've mentioned it in previous episodes, but in the last few months, my TEDx talk went live on the YouTube channel. So if you want to listen to my or watch my TEDx talk, if you go to YouTube and you type in the search bar TEDx Heidi Hadley, that will bring up my talk. And in my TEDx talk, I talk about how powerful pandiculation is for chronic pain and discomfort, and how it improves mobility. So please check that out, TEDx Heidi Hadley, and that's in the search bar for YouTube. And then finally, before we get started, I have a very, very special event that's going to be happening in the middle of January. And what I'm going to be doing is delving into how we can rewire and revive our health and our well-being, and how we can take some fine-tuning and tweaking of our habits, and whether they're serving us well or not. So if you want to know more about that, I'm going to encourage you, if you can, to go to totalsomatics.com/shift, as in SHIFT, shift. So that's totalsomatics.com/shift. And what you'll be able to do there is I'm going to be sending you a bit closer to the time all the relevant details. But if you go to that page, totalsomatics.com/shift, you'll see a little bit more information there. And just before we get started with this episode, I would encourage you to listen out to next week's episode, because I'm going to share something very special with you there too. And it's only going to be for a few days. So I'd encourage you to check that episode out. And that's why, again, if you've got a notification bell wherever you're listening to this episode, you'll get notified of when that announcement is going to be made in the next episode. Right, so let's get started with today, because I want us to look at how we can protect our body from chronic stress. So I'm going to be sharing with you three aspects that's impacted and that is created with chronic stress. But as always, with these episodes, I want us to then direct it to more of a positive, proactive approach. So I'm going to be kind of geeking out a little bit on a bit of science and neurophysiology and biology generally. But what we want to do is then take that information and work out how we can then move forward in a very positive, proactive way. So let's first of all consider that when we have chronic stress, we know, don't we, we've all been there, that it impacts our body in different ways. And so we want to look at how we can protect ourselves. So really, when we have prolonged periods of stress, that chronic stress, it really does throw us off course. And I want us to consider three aspects that are apparent when we've got this chronic stress. So the first one I want to consider is cortisol. So cortisol has become a bit of an in word at the moment, so you may be familiar with it. But when we are highly stressed, there's something called the HPA axis, which stands for the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenal glands. And what they do collectively is they produce this hormone called cortisol. And what happens then is cortisol is sent throughout the body. So cortisol signals to all these body systems as it's traveling around, and it will signal information to your immune system and your liver, just to name a few, when we have that prolonged period of stress. Now, in moderate cases, cortisol is really good. But what we're considering here is when we're in chronic stress, when we're constantly producing cortisol, because this is when issues arise, and this is where we can develop things like weight gain. We can have a lot of issues with weakened immunity. And so that's why we want to look at what can we do to manage our cortisol. I'll be sharing with that very, very soon. But beforehand, let's consider the second aspect, and that's something called oxidative stress. Have you heard of that expression before? So when we have chronic stress, this can lead into oxidative stress. And I'm just going to break this down very simply for you. But oxidative stress is what starts to cause a lot of tissue and cell damage. And it's where we have really an imbalance between the production of harmful waste molecules and the body's ability to actually detoxify, repair these molecules. So if we start to get an imbalance and we have more of a higher level of these damaging waste molecules, what that starts to do is damage our DNA, our proteins, and also just the general cellular and tissue makeup that we have. So it's really, really important that we start to manage our stress levels because of this oxidative stress. The third aspect is inflammation. So of course, we've all been exposed to inflammation at different times, but chronic stress can result in us feeling and experiencing persistent inflammation. And so inflammation is a normal response because it's designed to protect our body in times of injury or when we have illnesses. Yet when inflammation is constant due to chronic stress, it starts to lead to health issues such as heart disease, various types of irritable bowel disorders, and arthritis. And that's just to name a few. I'm sure you could continue that list on for me. So really, let's consider those three again. We've got excessive cortisol, oxidative stress, and inflammation. And when they combine together, what that starts to do is disturb something called mitochondria, which is in our cells. And I remember years ago as a student learning about mitochondria. I found it really fascinating, but that's just me. It's a bit strange, I know. But the mitochondria is the powerhouse within the cell. It is such a little pocket rocket. It does so much for your cells. And so what happens is these three things, the excessive cortisol, oxidative stress, and inflammation, when they're combined, they will impact our little powerhouses, that mitochondria. And when that happens, it stops the ability for us to make this energy. And you see, energy is really, really important because when we have vast amounts of energy, it helps with our brain and body function. But when we have chronic stress, if our mitochondria is affected, that's right down to a cellular level, it stops that energy production from working. So can you see how things just start to snowball over the time? And so all of our cells, particularly our brain cells, need that energy to function. It's so, so crucial. And so there's this complex, this woven way that things start to unravel, really, when we're considering this stress aspect. So there's causes and there's consequences that will happen when this starts to create what we now know as nervous system dysregulation. And so that will then lead on to creating the development of mind and body pain issues and discomfort. And this is why we really want to get to what can we do to protect our body from chronic stress. We can't get rid of the stress around us. It's always going to be there. The one thing we can do is manage our inner world and basically how we're taking care of ourselves throughout the day. We are going to have ups and downs, and I will share with you in the next episode about this fluctuation in our nervous system. But what can we do today that we can, as I'm always saying, that can protect ourselves today and protect our future self? Well, we need to really navigate how we're going to manage ourselves. So as we now go into a very busy time of the year, we might find that we have family dynamics or different situations that can kind of trigger us or create flashbacks to maybe things that have happened in the past, and that can start to churn up and cause a lot of stress for us. Again, we've got to look at how we can manage these situations because we often have to just do it, even if it's for a short period of time. There are other factors that you may be considering at the moment that can be potentially quite a stressful situation. So what I want to share with you is two little resources which you can listen to. They're audios. Put some headphones in your ears, close your eyes, find somewhere quiet to do this. And the great thing is, the one of them is about 10 minutes long, the other's 8 minutes long. And if you've got a situation whereby it's highly stressed. It's like you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. Whatever the situation is, could you take yourselves away for like 18 to 20 minutes, put these headphones in, find a quiet spot, and just look at how you can calm and regulate your nervous system. And that's going to help reduce all these things that we've discussed today. So have you got a pen and paper ready? I'm going to share these 2 resources with you. They're free as well. So the first one, if you go to totalsomatics.com/regulate, that's totalsomatics.com/regulate. That is a 10-minute audio, and that includes breathing and eye movement. And when you combine those 2 together, it very quickly dials down that stress response. It brings us back into this window where we can have a bit more tolerance, or we have a greater capacity within our nervous system to deal with that situation. So that's totalsomatics.com/regulate. And the second resource is about 8 minutes long. Again, that's an audio. And what this one's about is if we feel that we're starting to ruminate and we're starting to go back into our head and we're losing the awareness of sensation, of maybe we're not even aware that we're contracting and tightening our body and our breathing's being impacted. What this audio will do is calm your nervous system, and it allows you to step down from your head back into your body, to feel the sensations, to feel comfortable. Because when we go back into our head, we're going back into a default stress response. Because if we were in a real life threatening situation, we wouldn't be contemplating life and noticing our breathing. We would flick into our head to be hypersensitized and alert to the situation, to problem solve, to get out of that situation. Whereas what we want to do here is quieten down that rumination, and whatever's going on in our head, come back into our body. So whatever the situation is, we're not going to be reactive or say the wrong thing that we can't take back afterwards. And that's about us managing our state. We can't do much about everyone else. We can take really good care of ourselves though. So can you see that is totalsomatics.com/calm, CALM, calm. So you've got 2 resources, totalsomatics.com/regulate and totalsomatics.com/calm, CALM. Please do check those out. Have those if you can, like on your phone, so that you can go to them at any time just to play them back and again regulate your nervous system, because we really do want to protect our body, our beautiful mind and body, from that chronic stress. So as I said, look out for next week, because I have a very special announcement. And actually, the topic that I discuss next time is actually going to be very much about what we've discussed today. But again, looking at this fluctuation in our nervous system and just delving a little bit deeper into that aspect too. So have a look out for that, and I will see you very, very soon. All my love, all my very best wishes. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and also forward this on to somebody you know will benefit. To learn more about pain relief, plus how to improve your health and well-being, go to totalsomatics.com. Until next time, take care.